let's talk about Sherlock Holmes, A Game of Shadows. This is Guy Ritchie's second Sherlock Holmes film, the second one that he does with Robert Downey Jr. and Jude Law. And yeah, what is this film about? Well, a little while after the events of the first film, Sherlock Holmes is like, okay, so this guy Moriarty, who we kind of set up at the end of the last film, this Moriarty fellow is sort of like my arch nemesis, and he is connected to this conspiracy that is essentially going to start like World War One, essentially like a few years early, because he's trying to start a war between France and Germany. So it's up to Holmes and Watson to get the help of this like gypsy woman named Sim, played by the girl from the girl with the dragon tattoo, that same actress. He has to sort of, or they have to team up with her to sort of help unlock and eventually put an end to this government conspiracy. And you wanna know what? I remember for years thinking that this was a really not good movie, like this was a really bad movie. I will say, I actually kind of like the ending a bit more than I like the ending of the first movie. Like, spoilers for a movie that's like, almost 13 years old, because this came out in 2011. So, actually, I was correct, I think, last year when I said, or last video when I said, I think, he does these in between Iron Mans. So, like, he does this one in 2009, this one in 2011, so he's doing them in between Iron Mans. Like, literally. And this one, I will say, kind of ends... So this ends with Sherlock and Moriarty having, like, a mind face-off. You know, with the whole punch him in the jaw, punch him in the stomach, crack 2 ribs. Conclusion, you know, whatever. You know, that God mode Schneider vision thing that he does, that I will say looks more like the God mode that you see in King Arthur. Looks more like that in here, in this movie. But him and Moriarty have like a mind face off, and like, I will say I actually do kind of like the ending a bit more in this film than I do in the first film. But like, I will say, and I said this in Letterboxd, that this movie is just this film, but worse. I think every sort of complaint that I could have about the first movie, which is like it not being a mystery. I don't really like too many of the characters who aren't Sherlock and Watson. You know, I think that this movie is dull in some places. And I feel like they could have made this so much more fun if it maybe leaned into more of those Guy Ritchie isms that I love. And I would honestly love to see one day a third movie that leans more into what made this first film so great. Because yeah, this movie is kind of just like a 18th century spy movie. You know, Sherlock and Watson have to, you know, they have to go on this grand journey where we're going from where we start in London, and then we go then something happens and we go to someplace else, then London happens, or sorry, then we go to Paris, and then we go to Switzerland, or Germany, and then Switzerland. And like, we're kind of going, you know, we're going from place to place in Europe, you know, globetrotting in Europe, from place to place, with no real rhyme or reason. And I feel like this movie sort of just is made lesser because we're just going from place to place, and there's no reason to go. There's no real reason given. Forgive me, my nose just look really itchy. I've been battling like the seasons are changing right now. It's going from like winter to spring where I live, and it kind of went back to winter for some strange reason a few days back. But yeah, my nose should no longer be itchy. But no, like, this is just like, this is a spy movie, and I said like, when I reviewed Ungentlemanly Warfare, that's like his 4th attempt at a spy film, and I think that's Guy Ritchie's best spy film. This is his first attempt, and I feel like the idea of a 1800s spy movie could actually be rather neat, because like, how do you do that? Like, and you do it like period accurate. Like, that could look cool, but I think that this film just kind of, it's neat, but it doesn't do it cool. The best scene in the movie, besides maybe the ending with the mine fight, is probably the train sequence, and that is just like kind of the only real standout action beat of this whole film, because I don't know, like I will also say that in Germany they're running away from like these giant cannons and machine guns, and like trees are getting ripped apart. I remember thinking this is obnoxious when I originally saw this back in 2018, because I get this in 2018, this Blu-ray from a Dollar General, a local Dollar General. It only has the Blu-ray. It doesn't have a like a DVD in it, even though it might supposed to be. It's kind of interesting. I remember I went to like a Big Lots, because this was wrapped, and I unboxed it, and it was like weird to find this like a pre-owned, I guess, copy of this movie at the time. It was weird to find it at a Dollar General. And then I went to a Big Lots, and I got Tomorrowland, and then something else from that Big Lots. And because I bought this, I was surprised to sort of see that, oh yay, good, this has both discs. You know, my copy of Tomorrowland had both discs. And my sister, I love my sister, but this is the sister who's 2.5 years older than me, who just had my niece last year, naively said that you cannot, it is like illegal to repackage something and sell it as new if it's not new or something like that. And my poor sister, I wish I lived in like the same world that she lived in sometimes. My sister is so sheltered. But that being said, also that's a joke, by the way, if you didn't know, that was a joke. But that being said, I kind of do wish that I maybe own this on DVD, just for consistency's sake. But what was even my point? Oh, I buy this thinking that this is the first movie back in 2018. I buy this thinking this is the first movie, and then I was genuinely surprised to learn, and kind of like a memory unlocked, because I remember seeing like the trailer for this movie, I guess back in 2011, and thinking, oh, that's weird. Why is he wearing a dress? He's wearing a dress because he's, you know, hiding on a train or whatever. So I vaguely remember this movie coming out, but like this movie was a big deal. This movie was not a big deal at all. I feel like no one talks about this movie, and I was literally talking to a fellow content creator friend of mine, who I'm sure doesn't want to be named. I was talking to a fellow content creator friend of mine today, and they had no idea that this film even existed. And I'm sure if I talked to my other friend who's actually a reviewer, he probably would be like, really, there's another one of those? Because I feel like people don't know this one exists, because this movie, I think, kind of fails at the box office, and it's also just not as good. A big problem that I have, and this is kind of interesting, because my favorite Mission Impossible movie is the fifth one, where you have Ethan Hunt go after this dude named, I think his name is Simon Hall, or his name, no, Solomon Lane, that's his name. I just remembered it. I was trying to think about it earlier today. Solomon Lane is the villain of this movie, and he runs the syndicate, and he is this guy who Ethan sees at the very beginning of the film, and it feels very true to Ethan's character that he's like, okay, there's this guy named Simon Lane who is sort of the head, you know, guy in this shadowy secret society that I'm hunting, called the Syndicate. And this whole movie is about him stopping the Syndicate and proving that this guy exists and that the Syndicate exists. And that's my favorite of the Mission Impossible movies. But I kind of don't like it when there's just a shadow organization in a movie that like runs everything and is supposed to be like secretly in charge of all this mess, but like there's no feasible way for this shadow organization to really exist. Like, you know, how is this, like, this movie brilliantly explains where the funding is coming from, like something I kind of have a problem, and I kind of have this problem with like Shang-Chi and with Shang-Chi and the Mandarin and the Ten Rings, and with like Black Widow and the Red Room. It's like, who are funding those two organizations? Like you can say that there's a shadow organization run by all these evil people, but like you have to make me believe as an audience member, as a viewer of your film, that these people could be funded enough. And like, I honestly don't think, I mean, granted, I don't know what a professor makes, but like, I genuinely cannot believe that Moriarty himself is funding this, especially since he's trying to start a war between like France and Germany. And I don't know, like there's a way to make me believe this. And I also just don't like Moriarty in general. I don't know, I feel like you could literally make, like, you can make 10 Sherlock Holmes movies, maybe not back to back, like year after year, but you can make 10 Sherlock Holmes movies if you really tried hard enough. You can make 10 Sherlock Holmes movies and have them just be every movie he stops a different enemy. And like, I understand that like every hero has to have like an arch nemesis, and this is maybe my first real exposure to Moriarty, because like I never, besides like The Great Mouse Detective and Sherlock Holmes, the VeggieTales movie, I've never seen anything outside of these things for Sherlock Holmes. Also, there's some weird queer undertones with Moriarty and Sherlock Holmes in this too. It's not just the Sherlock TV show with Benedict Cumberbatch. Like, this also has some weird like queer baiting in it. But I don't know, like I was genuinely surprised to see that I kind of liked some of this. Like, I liked the part in Germany where they're like first sneaking in to the gun factory, because that's kind of like, and there's like some other stuff kind of like with the train, even though I don't really like how annoying Sherlock is. Like, Sherlock really does sort of teeter into like an annoying like asshole in this film. And like, but there are still moments where like, like, you know, Robert Downey Jr. and Jude Law still have amazing chemistry together. But like, there's the train sequence, and then there's a little bit of that stuff in Germany, and then like the end of the movie that I like. But everything else, and this is like, these are the same length, and everything else just kind of feels like just not a good movie. It's almost like, it's like when you have, and I've used cooking metaphors before, it's kind of like when you've made it's like when you have a pie, and you've made this pie consistently for like 20 years, but then you get the mixture wrong, and the pie's just not the same because the mixture for the pie is wrong. And that's kind of what this pie is. Like, Rock'n'Rolla has like a good idea with it. Like, I think Rock'n'Rolla could work as a TV show if you just kind of like turned that movie into like that 2-hour movie into like a 40-minute pilot, and then you said go. Like Rock'n'Rolla could work at, like, its seasonings is good. This is just a bad pie. And that kind of sucks to say as a big lover of Guy Ritchie's filmography. So this is the penultimate review of Guy Ritchie's work. In a few days, I will review Aladdin. I hope to watch this with my niece, actually. Maybe part of it, because, you know, she's a baby. But yeah, I'm excited to talk about Aladdin. I might watch this on Disney Plus, just because. But yeah, I'm excited to talk about Aladdin. I may also review, not in the same video, but I may also try to squeeze in a review of the original. All that good stuff. But yeah, comment below, let me know, have you heard of this movie? What did you think about it? All that kind of good stuff. Do you like it more than the first movie? I imagine that there's probably somebody who maybe likes it more than the first film. And out of Guy Ritchie's, out of his 4, hold up, let me grab them. Out of his 4 attempts at making spy films, what is your favorite? Is it Sherlock Holmes, A Game of Shadows, A Man from U.N.C.L.E., which has to maybe be my second favorite of his spy films, Operation Fortune, or Ungentlemanly Warfare. Now, this is my personal favorite, and I actually reviewed this a few days ago if you have not checked out that review. But this is my personal favorite of his spy films. But comment below, let me know, what is your favorite of his spy films? There are no wrong answers. What is your favorite one of his movies? Mine is undoubtedly Wrath of Man. I love Wrath of Man. This is my favorite Guy Ritchie movie. But no, I would love to hear what yours is. Comment below, let me know. All that kind of good stuff. And that is it for now. Remember that God, He made you special. He loves you very much. I hope you have a very lovely day. I hope you had a very lovely week. The game is afoot, and it is stinky, y'all. God bless.